microphone if you're speaking today. It helps with the sound on our live stream, especially if you're facing towards the screen today. Just make sure that you either move a microphone or if there's another microphone on the other side of you, that's perfect.
It's on, right?
Yes, they're all on.
Can you hear us, Klaus?
Klaus, can you hear us? Testing, 1, 2, 3.
I couldn't understand. You're speaking, I could.
Sorry, Klaus. I was just reminding everybody to speak into a microphone today. Okay?
Can you hear us? Yeah, I'm having some kind of machine already.
Can you hear me now? I was talking this way, so I didn't have the mic, but I will make sure the mic is close to my mouth when I'm speaking.
Okay.
Okay, so can you hear me now? Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're live streaming whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. The time is 7:03 PM on Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. I'd like to call this Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting to order. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territories of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nations community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas, recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaty of 1923. A shared understanding of how the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective pasts brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Can I please get a motion to approve the agenda? Owen, are there any comments or questions regarding the agenda?
No.
Question?
Finding it a little bit sparse. We didn't have a meeting in September, now we have one in October. And we had, for instance, an introduction to cycling, the rules under the provincial plans. But we haven't heard anything about pedestrians and crossings. There are rules for that as well. There are books on that. And I thought it would be on the agenda automatically, but no. It doesn't make sense to me.
I don't produce the agenda. I actually try to add things to it, and there will be some more things in the next one. But your comments are well received. If there's something specific that you want on an agenda, you can always email me, and I'll try to figure out how to get it on there. Anyone, in fact.
It was, to me, I shouldn't have to remind you that pedestrians and cycling is the same thing, like it's parallel, it's equally important, and that's not dealing with those things.
Are you talking about the one item on the agenda, and that it's referring to the school zones, or something completely different?
There is.
Yeah, that's what we have. But
Yeah.
I'm talking about generally, we dealt with cycling, the book that
Yes.
the province put out on that. I never knew it existed, but now I know. And there's another one on pedestrianism. There's another one on crossings and intersections. And I've sent an email to get copies of those books. Like so we can have a look at them before we actually deal with them at committee level. And that didn't result in anything. Maybe the email never arrived. I don't know.
Do you know who you sent it to, Klaus?
I forget the name, but I have to look it up. And
let me know who you sent it to. I can follow up with the individual. I saw you're looking for the Ontario Traffic Manual book. So you want a copy of the physical book?
yeah, for the pedestrians and for the crossings and intersections.
I'll see if I can print it out. They're a couple hundred pages. Yeah, it's pretty thick.
PDF, you can print
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I realize it may be quite thick.
Yeah.
But it's also very valuable in our context here.
I'll see if I can arrange for physical copy for you.
But are you, well,
Okay.
let's just, we'll vote on the agenda and then we can talk about in new business on how to get things on the agenda and where some of these other items are I guess whether or not we had discussed them to be part of the meeting and if so, at what point will they be? If it's something new, then let's see how we can get it onto the agenda. So let's approve the agenda and then we can talk about it in new business. Fair enough?
Okay.
All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. Declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any? Seeing none. Could I please get a motion to receive the meeting minutes of June 28th, 2023?
Yeah.
Owen, Gino, any comments or questions about the minutes?
None.
I don't see. Okay, thank you.
How many people do we have?
It's Giovanni and Lil. Yeah.
I just realized my camera was off. I apologize, sir. I've been nodding my head the whole time. Sir.
So we still can't see you.
Still can't
though.
see you, yeah.
See you. Oh, now.
Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Thank you. We have no delegations this evening. We have one item on the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to put the item on the floor for discussion, please?
Go ahead.
Owen. So the motion
Look at
on
the
the
manuals.
floor is that the memorandum regarding traffic calming measures in school zones performance evaluations be received and that the active transportation and traffic safety advisory committee regarding traffic calming measures in school zones performance evaluation be received and referred to staff for consideration and further action as appropriate. So anyone who would like to speak on that report? Or do you want to do, Michael, a quick summary of it?
Yeah.
Do you mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, think, please.
So back in 2019, council approved a pilot project to install what I call the flexible posts.
Mhm.
So basically they are a flexible sign, one in the middle of the road and two side posts. So the purpose of the pilot program is to create a narrow effect of the road so that to encourage people to slow down, basically in front of the school zone. And that's what we did. We did data collection before and after the pilot project. And based on the traffic data that we have, we determined that the flexible post signs is pretty effective. They can reduce the 85th percentile between 3 to, I think it was 5, so 6 kilometers per hour. And that is actually considered to be pretty significant in front of the school zone. And we have to keep in mind that generally in front of the school zone, the speed limit is not excessively high to begin with. So with 3 to 5, the 3 to 5 kilometer per hour reduction doesn't seem a lot for regional road, but then for local road, that's actually pretty significant. So to my understanding, this program has been extended throughout the region. Other municipalities participating in the program. Markham is rapidly expanding the program to all the school zone. I believe Fawn is doing the same thing. Newmarket started the pilot. So based on the report, we recommend the flexible post sign to be included. So if there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Any comments?
I'll say that I know on Stone Road, anecdotally, I have them on Stone Road right in front of my house, and I think they're a fantastic addition. You know, I certainly don't have my own gauge monitoring traffic, just my eyes, but I can definitely tell you I see a lot of red brake lights going through those posts, and it's definitely noticeable when you see cars slowing down. It's been a real problem on Stone Road, so I'm delighted that they're there. So good move on the town's part.
Thank you. What ultimately is the objective here? To recommend to council to anytime we're looking at using this in the arsenal of traffic calming measures that we may have, and it sounds like a not so expensive option that's pretty effective. Is ultimately staff going to propose to council, or whenever there's some traffic calming desires that we recommend this option?
Yeah, so staff is recommending to include the flexible posts to be as part of the traffic calming policy. So when there's no request that comes in, I think the ultimate goal is we want to make sure that these signs are being installed throughout the town in a consistent manner, and that the impacted residents, that they are well communicated, and that basically follow the traffic calming policy, which the first one is the petitions. We're not necessarily looking for petitions, but we still want the resident to, I guess, not oppose to the idea to begin with before we continue to explore this option.
So I'm going to concur with the results. They're consistent with what we see in my municipality. I think it's adding another element into the toolbox. Line painting, as I said, and this is one of the issues I had with the current policy that needs to be reviewed. The wider the road, we have this because it's been proven, the faster the cars go. The narrower the road, even painting a white line will sometimes reduce it by 5 kilometers. So putting a flex post has been, it's a little bit more labor intensive, but when people are driving their Mercedes or their BMWs, they're going to slow down, and it really does work. It's a cheap alternative. You have to install it in the spring and then uninstall it, you know, just prior to winter, but it does work as an immediate. I would think that you look at the road, another policy initiative should be is when you're looking where areas are problematic, and this is where I talked about active transportation. The ideal is to incorporate, cycle track into the boulevard. And by doing that, you have to narrow the roads, right? Which really serves 2 purposes too, right? So that when you're narrowing the road, it also acts as a traffic calming measure. Really, you're trying to, but it's the Cadillac. And I'm sorry, like any other municipality, it's always about funding. So you kind of have to think, okay, if this road is coming up for a road reconstruction, do you have traffic calming issues here? Is there an opportunity, given the existing curb is mostly deteriorated? Curb, like anything else, you typically you do a road resurfacing, you don't replace all the curb, but there might be sections where you've let it just for whatever reason, it's in bad shape. Is there an opportunity to narrow the road? These plans that we try to create identify those areas so you can then arbitrarily said, okay, if there's an opportunity here, and if it's problematic, you're looking at the narrowing of the roads, and putting these are one of the most, and roundabouts. So that's a lot you see. You put more roundabouts. If I know there was always an issue with roundabouts because they're easy to implement in new developments because they require more land. In existing areas, it's very difficult because you have to also look at, the fire trucks have to get through. So you're really restricted in terms of the radiuses that you can rate based on the existing. So I concur, let's add this to the toolbox as a measure, but I would look at adding, like I said, review the policy too, because again, I've raised some concerns with your policy, and I'm not to pat my head, but look at what we're doing, and it should be done collaboratively with the other municipalities in York Region, because there's a lot of work that's happening in other major work, because it is an issue, and just not in Aurora, but everywhere else, and try to look at best practices to move in. Because I know everybody's saying, oh, we should put the cameras in the school zones, right? And I'm like, okay, yes, okay, they do work, but they just create so many animosities and other issues. I think what you also need to do is physically go out there and monitor the area and see who's speeding. So I did it in my, just to watch who to see speeding. And yes, school zones are a problem because everybody's driving their kids to school, right? And I'm going to identify that as one of the major issues. What you see, with speeding is people are rushing because to get there. Okay, kids are no longer walking. I know other municipalities are introducing walking programs to get us kids out of the cars, again, creating traffic issues to be, okay, let's get our kids more active. So I think it's not one thing that's going to solve it. I think it's a combination of many things. that eventually, so I concur with putting it in your toolbox, but I also would recommend that we review what other municipalities are doing to kind of come, because it's when you're looking at active transportation, that's also going to help you deal with some of the traffic calming issues. I truly believe that. That's something that we're trying to implement. Line painting, I think, like I said, the markers are physical. Line painting, people might slow down, but when you see a physical barrier that could hit the car, it'll work. It works. And buy them, and again, look at deals. If you're going to be buying it, look at other municipalities, how to group it, how to buy. That, again, the markers, and see if you can get a better deal. So,
Yes, so
Sorry.
no, it's okay.
talking to
No,
this.
thank you for the comments. Really appreciate it. So I just do want to add that we are part of the overall York technical group. So we meet every quarter and we share information in terms of what works and what doesn't work. And this pilot project is actually came about that there was a presentation during one of those technical meetings that we had, and it was presented in Markham, and that was what really caught our eyes, and that's what really how we set up the pilot. So I do agree with you that it's important to see what other people are doing, and that's what the technical meetings are for. So again, we participate the meeting every quarter, and the meeting is to share information, share best practice, etc.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Just as a follow-up, anybody else? Just as a follow-up to, I did take the opportunity, actually in a couple of days, and I finally got back into the system. A lot of those comments, I didn't see anybody else, but I did put a lot of comments in there, kind of saying where you should be putting in cycling facilities. I will note that some of the comments that I've made locally within, the municipality I work with, is that line painting and putting up signage is the cheapest thing to kind of implement. Cadillac is what, we did in preparation for the subway station at Clark, where, we moved the curves, built a cycle track. I'm going to say that's up there, but it's not where you have all those resources all the time. I think if you're looking to implement something here in Aurora, you look at the collector roads. I noted that school zones are high, while not ideal, but doing line painting with signage with bike lanes is a start. You want to put markers, you could put them at start, one in the middle type of thing, again, but they have to be removed. But those are quick fixes that can work, when you're lacking money. And again, as you narrow the road, it doesn't become the wider the road. Like I look at Murray where I live, and that's like, okay, you can gun that. Some of the areas there, you can just, but I think the other aspect too, when we did the street lighting conversion, okay, Murray is underlit. And I know they went and you did a straight conversion. And I noted this with the previous mayor, saying, guys, you need a project here. If you're going to go and you have to review the existing lighting. It doesn't meet our current requirements, even with switching it over. You guys did a straight switch without doing a street lighting analysis. It doesn't meet current standard. And you can tell when you drive the street how dark it is. I can see it because I'm in the industry. So I think that's something you got to look at too in terms of safety, right? Is better lit streets. So that should be in combination of what you're doing. I know it's costly, but again, where there was a rush to switch over to LED, we took our, again, not to bolster, but the lighting was addressed. We had phasing work in the municipality and we automated it. So we've moved away from tagging poles. We basically put what we call the photo control on the light that basically tells us when it turns on. If it's off, we've automated the entire lighting system. And I think Aurora should try to move to that or just discuss that. But I think lighting is also important when we move forward with the bicycle and pedestrian implementation, because again, you have to make the roads safe. And I think it's important to look at lighting because Yonge Street is brutal. Like I look at Yonge Street, there's like poles from the 50s, on there, and that's a primary street. And I know you guys have control, which I've always said, okay, why don't you download it to the region? But again, I'm not going to say that, but it should have been at the time it was an MTO road. And I know Richmond Hill and Aurora kept the roads, but those should have been roads that you should have downloaded to York Region and not maintained and gone after them. But I would look at those streets because the newer areas are lit well. they meet current standards. I would say the majority of them, but some.
Let's stick to the.
Yeah, or lighting.
No, but it is an element
Yeah,
of traffic.
Can I add one comment? Not to interrupt you, but we should look at City of Toronto Council approved yesterday, the implementation of traffic calming devices. They changed the process so it could streamline and speed up. So the approval process would be faster and implementation would be faster. Maybe that's something we want to look at because we're going to identify areas, but then from time it's identified to implementation, what's that timeline? Maybe we should streamline it so that we can actually get these out.
What's their process? What did they approve?
They cut the red tape out basically, right? So that they've streamlined it so that it doesn't have to cross so many desks before it gets approved and implemented. So they're making it easier process for different areas within the city to be able to, if they have issues, they can implement.
So we have these warrants. I don't know, Michael, if do we have to achieve all 3 warrants or is one sufficient to,
All warrants have to be met.
all warrants have to be met? And
Yeah.
so,
But I think maybe we could revisit the warrant criteria. We'll take a look at the City of Toronto examples and.
Yeah. They just approved it yesterday, right? So it's current. So you can take a look at the notes.
How do they get buy-in with, because a lot of the issues have, what I've seen, the infighting is that residents are not notified. It's only a street. And I know this is what Aurora's approach is, as opposed to looking at it from a community, saying because what you're doing sometimes is dealing with this street, then pushing that problem somewhere else within that block.
Yeah. So if you,
But
I didn't read in total detail of it, but if you look at what the councilors were saying, basically, it's a safety issue and they're identifying it as a safety issue. Anything that will calm traffic or slow traffic down, cuts out some of the congestion and the problems that they have. And that's what they're looking for.
safety is a factor.
That's what, that's how they drove it through.
is the 70th percentile for warrant number 1, is that normal in terms of response from residents? Like in term, if we did anything else?
Yeah, so we've been pretty good at receiving the minimum 70% response from residents in terms of.
But is the 70% equal to other, when we go survey or whatever else we're doing, is 70 the right number?
70% is the number that a lot of other municipalities are using for their traffic calming policy. But again, I need to revisit the City of Toronto just approved newly version to see what percentage they use. But again, to my understanding, most of the traffic calm policy that I see from other municipalities uses that 70%.
The issue is the area that you're surveying. Is it the street or is it your tributaries to the street? Because all collector roads, they basically collect the local roads, right? And feed the traffic to the arterial roads. So that's where the dilemma comes in because, people are saying, I have a say too. I live here too. People don't want, I'm sorry, yes, the traffic's going to be more on a collector road, but you chose to live there, so this is where we get into the design of these roads, right? We should make them narrow, but again, they're collector roads. They collect the traffic from the local crescents and cul-de-sacs and they feed into the collector road that feeds to the arterial road. So you get into, all I'm going to say is that sometimes you can get into, if you have a vocal, you can have fights where they say, you never asked me. I live here too. I pay taxes. You want to be caught in that? I don't know if it happens in Aurora, but I know it happened.
Well, that's why you do the survey and
Yeah, but what are you surveying?
that the area where they're going in.
No, Aurora's been surveying only the street that's going to be affected, not the
it's-
adjacent streets that feed into it.
I think it's case by case. If there's a collector road, what Gino just mentioned, we'll look at if the other area has been impacted as well. Those people will actually be in survey as well. So if it's just a local road that that doesn't feed into any other street, then we'll only survey the impacted section. But again, it really depends on the situation, the location, and it's really based on case.
It's never going to make everyone happy, no matter how many people survey anyone.
No, you're going to be appease the ones that are going to whine and complain until you do something, but then it pushes the traffic onto the other one. That's why I said when you're doing this, it should be a comprehensive approach throughout the municipality. So if we're looking at it, you should be looking at the block and saying, okay, what's the story? Where are the issues? Identify the issues in that block. Just don't treat that street because some people have gotten together and you're moving the issue to another street. That it has to be comprehensive.
Yeah, I think the temporary solution until you do that is to put in the temporary
Yeah, absolutely.
bollards so that you've appeased it while you're undergoing a different study, which would be more comprehensive. That way you're not influxing a lot of cash and your capital into these projects.
Yeah.
It's a quick fix until you figure out from a master plan what you want to do.
Yeah, and you can't implement the ultimate because these roads were set up back in the day where, I'm sorry, everything north of Toronto was car focused. Okay, it's been car focused. Okay, now we're trying to move to.
Don't get Klaus started.
No, but that's what I'm working on now. I'm working on the subway. I'm trying to improve transit because I moved out of Toronto in 2010 to come to Aurora. And that was one of the main things I noticed when I came up to York Region. There's no alternative here. I moved purposely to be closer to Yonge Street because I said, what happens if I can't drive? In Toronto, I had an alternative, right? So I just think we were so car focused for so long now, and it's going to take us another 50 to 100 years to get people out of cars. Our kids, we drive them everywhere. Nobody walks or cycles anywhere. I did that as a kid. Nobody's doing that. Now we're trying to get back saying, oh, it's a green. How do we do it? Well, okay, let's stop driving. I never got driven anywhere. You wanted to go to the community center, you were on your bike and going. So,
Did you have a comment for this?
Yeah, I would like to say something,
please.
but
yes,
I don't understand much of what's going on. You're much too far away to.
I did it on purpose.
Register.
Yeah, sorry,
And
Klaus.
some of the other ones, it goes too fast. I cannot comprehend. I get words here and there, and that's about it. Now, my issue with the approach that you're going to take, the way I understand it is, you're assuming that the traffic is going to remain, that the car traffic is going to be near the schools. They're going to deliver the kids, and the through traffic is going to remain and everything. My approach would be to look at a pilot where you're reducing the traffic. That is the pilot I like to see, like where you do away with the need for kids to have to be driven to schools. So in order to do that, you're going to have to look for connections between schools and their area of input or influx. And we're not doing that. We're not getting into that. This is where we make a difference. And that's where we could have a meaningful pilot, but it's going to take a little bit more than just painting a line here and putting a sign there. And that is not going to solve the problem. We are looking at, in my way of thinking, meaningless little things that are going to be offset by some negatives as well. So we are not really getting to the issue. The kids need to walk to school and they can cycle to school. But when they get driven taxi to school, you're going to remain with this problem. You're not going to change anything. So we have all these good technical improvements, quote unquote, but they're not solving anything. We're not getting at the real and underlying problem.
Well, I think the new developments, as you would know, especially just north of here and the 2C area, they all have pathways that connect through the streets where your grandchildren went to school at St. Jerome. All that area, there are pathways that connect into the two schools that are there. And in the 2C area, some of them, not all the subdivisions were designed this way, but similar idea where they would cut through homes and there's pathways towards the schools. The older areas obviously are going to be a lot bigger challenge, even though in some of the older areas, there's similar designs where you can walk through pathways, but not everywhere naturally. So to achieve what you're saying is a little more complex, but at least there are some, whether it's through the planning department or whether it's developers and the planners that plan these subdivisions, they're allowing for those types of things for people to walk to the local schools.
you put in the policy, that the council decides that we're going to improve the connections for kids townwide.
Mhm.
Never mind the one where it works a little bit, like you mentioned, the one where my grandchildren were in that area, they walk to school, yes. But if you put in that policy and then acted upon it by trying to find these connectors that are not there now, then you have something that you can write home about. What you're doing here is piddly stuff as far as I'm concerned.
But this has to do with traffic calming. You're taking it at a different,
Yeah, and I
a
know.
different level. This is trying to, slow down cars in areas where
This
they're
is the
they're going too
first step.
far. But, your point is extremely valid, and I'd love to explore that throughout the town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I need to make those remarks because I don't believe in this traffic calming approach. I think we need to have a different approach on this altogether. I know I'm not speaking to the actual motion or whatever you want to call it. I am
we're
speaking,
flexible here.
to make you reflect on how you're approaching these
Yeah,
things.
You're right. Yeah, Gino.
I concur with everything that you've stated, Klaus. I totally,
Ian Terry.
I agree with everything that you have stated about, that we have a program in the municipality I work called Move Smart. Move Smart is something where you have like a toolbox. Traffic calming is one of those things. Getting our kids out to walk to school is another activity. There's not one where I see what the policy is. We have to implement certain things. So I think this is a stepping stone. Putting the markers does work. It does slow it down. It deals with the concerns that we have right now. Other policy come in place? Absolutely. I think other municipalities, I can't speak to what's going on in all the municipalities, but I do know the municipality I work for, that they are looking at different, things to try to implement to get kids. So what you just.
Yeah, looking at what?
They are looking at implementing a walking program. So what you said, the kids should walk to school, so we don't have these cars. It's easier said than done. You have to parents have to agree to it, so there's different strategies in terms of policy. You can't block the road. We've developed these schools and connected these schools via roads. So it's a change, we've created this over 50 years up here to be car focused, and it's gonna take us 50 years minimum to get people out, to kind of, how do we minimize that? Get people to use public transit, to stop our kids from driving them to school and wanting them to walk. We're all guilty of it, my wife is guilty. I was guilty of it, that we drove our kids to school. We never did, we walked. How do you change that? And I think it's going to take time. There is a comprehensive movement, I know, like I said, in my municipality, and you're more welcome to see it. You've probably, if you are meeting up to see the Move Smart program, it's a comprehensive approach. It's not just traffic calming. That's one of the things in the toolbox. So that's all I would say. We do need, so I concur to put that in there. Absolutely, the markers, they're cheap, they work, and hopefully make our streets a little bit safer. It doesn't make it 100%. There is nothing that we can do to make it 100% safe. There's always a level of risk. It's like, okay, how do we minimize that? We minimize it by trying to at least slowing down the traffic. Can we get how do we get the cars off of the road? I don't know. Do you want to dead end the street and say the cars can only go? I know at some point, some of the schools, they basically stopped their cars ahead so they couldn't get to the school and had to walk. But then it's almost, so there's different things that you try to implement, right? Where the cars can't come in. So I leave it up to you what to explore. But again, what's on the motion in terms of the markers? Absolutely move forward with that. The cheap, they work. I saw them, within my neighborhood there.
Any other?
So, yes, I just want to add something. Really appreciate all the comment and feedback. And yeah, I just want to bring up that one point that I just remember. I think City of Markham actually partnered with the school board, and don't quote me 100%. But I think they implemented some program at certain school to actually, I think they actually closed the road temporarily during school time. I can get more information about those program, but those are the things that I heard at those technical meeting. So the plan is we'll see how effective those programs are, what we can learn from the pilot from Markham, and we'll take it back and see how we can tailor to that will fit they'll fit a war. So that's the plan. I don't have the status of the program of the pilot program for Markham, but I will try to find out from Markham or even from the school board.
Can I add, Michael, I guess for the benefit here, can you explore what's going on in all the municipalities and maybe bring back a comprehensive saying, okay, how's Vaughan tackling it? How's Markham tackling? What are the programs that they're putting in place? Because I think we're not reinventing the wheel. There's the same problems that are here in, all the municipalities. So how do we address it? They'll try to come up with something, look at it, and then see, okay, what's a comprehensive approach?
Absolutely, yeah. So beside the technical group that I'm part of with York Region, we are also part of the active transportation school. I can't remember the full name, but basically it's targeted towards a school. I'm also in that committees, and that's actually the program that was from that committees. So again, we meet every quarterly and we share best practice that can be implemented at school zone to target, to promote active transportation, how to encourage people to walk, and how to slow down traffic. So we are part of various different committees, and we look at different things. And like what Gino said, we are we're trying to see what other municipalities are doing, and that's what they're sharing with us at the committees, and we try to take it back and see what we can potentially implement in a war.
I mean, it would be nice, it would be nice if you could gather that information and do a presentation to council, because I think, like everyone is busy and be able to kind of demonstrate. So when people come in saying, oh, I want traffic calming, I want this, and say, this is our comprehensive approach, at least educate our councilors as to what some of the elements are in the toolbox, what other municipalities are doing, because I think it's important that we don't have this, I want the speed cushion, I don't want this. Kind of look at what our approach is going to be.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt Klaus. I was typing into the chat notes. It's Lil here, and I don't think it's visible to you, so I'm just piping up here. But in our minutes, if we haven't approved it yet, but in our minutes, we had talked about some of the things that needed addressing, and that included from before some of the traffic calming along St. John's because of the new school there that was built, St. Anne's. So I mentioned that it would be good to have an IPS, to have the intersection pedestrian signals put up there at Woodland, Woodland Hills, Cliff Trail area, Brentwood and Willow Farm Lane for the new school, just because there's no safe way to walk to the new school. And also wondering about the survey, seeing we need 70%, is it possible to go to a digital format instead of only the phone or whatever that the town's been using?
And can I add to that? I was going to ask, what was the communication strategy to announce the pilot?
Communication strategy that we announced the pilot for these ones. How did we communicate to the residents?
So for the impacted section, for the impacted residents, we notified them through mail about the program, about starting it. We also we also communicate to the school board, to the school, that we are implementing signage in front of the school to let them know that this pilot is starting and this is what we're doing.
Okay, sorry, that was for the 3 pilot areas that are noted in the notes here, but when it expanded and went out, for example, in the Stone Road neighborhood, I'll just use my own local example. How did that happen? was any type of communication? Because I know a lot of the feedback I heard from people who were disgruntled was that they didn't know about it. Right?
Mhm.
Of course, some of them objected for whatever other reasons, but they were really upset that they didn't know it was happening. So I'm just, did the town take steps when they expanded it to communicate that out as well?
Yeah, so the sign that was installed in Stone Row was directly directed by management to install them. So again, the whole purpose of the report and the recommendation to council in the next GC meeting is to recommend that these signs to be included in the traffic calming policy to ensure that we have effective communications when we implement the sign in the future, that the residents will be notified.
I have a question there back to the minutes from our last meeting. So how is Center
Can I?
Street? Yeah, just wondering about Center Street because
Sorry.
that's going to be reduced quite significantly, how they are going to be notified, other than mail, if anything.
So they're going to be notified through our media channel, Facebook or Twitter or any media. The resident on Center Street will also be notified through mail. So, and the reduction of the speed limit will be enforced by the new sign. We'll make sure that this will be visible to notify all the motorists that the speed limit has been reduced from 40 to 30.
Lil, just to your other question about St. John's, last night, Councillor Weiss put a notice of motion in. I'll just quickly read it. Whereas St. John's Side Road is a regional road, and whereas the residents of Aurora in the Brentwood and Aspen Leaf subdivisions have no trail access to the south side of St. John's Side Road, and whereas there are no crosswalks offering safe pedestrian access to the south side of St. John's Side Road for the numerous families that reside in those two subdivisions, and whereas traffic has increased on St. John's Side Road to the recent and planned residential and institutional development. Number one, now therefore be it hereby resolved that the town council requests that the regional municipality of York construct a crosswalk at St. John's Side Road and McClinley Gate entrance to allow a safe pedestrian traffic, and two, be it further resolved that the regional municipality of York fund the crosswalk. So that was passed last night. The mayor is going to take it to the region. They'll do their traffic counts. If, at least according to the mayor, if they don't hit the minimum traffic counts, then they won't fund it, and it would be up to the town of Aurora to fund it. So that's what happened last night, as far as that's concerned.
So when you say traffic count, you're talking about pedestrians. Is that right?
No, I suspect cars, mainly cars, to see how many cars are going up and down there.
Okay.
York, so I'm gonna jump in here. York Region has a warrant that has to be met for them to put any traffic signals within any new intersection. They've also moved forward within their last report to indicate where it doesn't meet warrant, they will move forward with implementing it, but the local towns or cities would be fully responsible for the full design and construction of that traffic signal. Plus, they've added this new element that for the next 10 years, they have to pay for the maintenance. So that's just been added. If you want to read it, this is just new coming off of York Region. They're adamant about this because they're getting a lot of requests coming in. I disagree with that, but again, I'll leave it up to Tom to have the discussion at Regional Council. So that's something that I think was, I can't remember if it's coming up or something that I read in the meeting minutes, but I know that's what they're moving forward with. If it doesn't meet warrant, and they have a methodology to make that determination, the traffic signal. And again, I think we looked at it. I think there's a safety issue, a blind spot, because I think St. John, this is coming down the hill. He can't see there.
Yeah, there's an accident.
It's the hill in proximity to the lights.
Yeah, and that's going to be a unique.
Your distance to the lights at Bathurst and your hill, you're going to be here.
They're going to be, so that's another thing they have to meet. There's minimum distances. So that's why I said, okay, they could probably put it in, but not put it at the location that you would like. There's got to be a certain distance. And again, York Region can speak to that. So anyway,
So anyway, it's with them. He put more for that motion, so we'll be hearing back from them once they do whatever it is they do. And then council will have to decide, do we fund it, or don't we? If if it doesn't meet the regulations that the region has, then it'll be up to Aurora Council.
it'd be
So,
about 400,000.
sorry, and what about Willow Farm? Because that one is actually directly leading into that new school, St. Anne's. It's also at a hill. So
There's
you know,
lights there.
both of them, St. John, that's
There are lights there.
St. John's is really bad for cyclists and pedestrians, which are, you know, they are there for sure, but it is a bad because of all the hills there.
I believe they put lights in there.
Yeah, but there's no
The
crosswalk.
Willow Farm entrance,
The
where
light.
St. Anne's entrance is, there's new light signals that have gone in.
Yeah, there's a light signal, but there didn't seem to be crosswalks or anything. Maybe that's changed. Maybe that'll change.
No, I don't know. Not sure.
I will find out and I will report back to the group.
I believe the light signals went in, but so the children can go from one school to the other because they're combining resources right now. So in the plan, because I remember seeing the plan when they were redeveloping that road, there was crossings in the original plan.
Maybe it'll
We'll
come in
find out.
soon. Yeah.
We just, if there's no more comments specifically to what are they called? Flexible signs. Can we, if there's no more comments, I'll just call the questions. That way we can discuss some of these other things in new business. Maybe it's more appropriate. Are there any other comments specifically to this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Thank you.
Toolbox.
Information items, I don't think we have any information items. New business, does anyone have any new business?
Can I start first?
Yes.
So I think about 2 weeks ago, I sent an email out to the group about an information section that we want to host with our active transportation master plan group. I heard back from about maybe 50%. So I just want to confirm is November 9th is doable for everyone, because we want to proceed to schedule the information section with the group so that our team can finalize the draft.
Okay,
That
did you
would
get
be-
the?
That would be pedestrian information section.
Information section. So we look at the pedestrian network and the cycling network. Yeah. So at the information section, we'll present to the group the draft network that we have come up with, and you can we want to obtain your feedback, your comments, markup, or anything that we can include it into the revised draft.
That's 7 to 9.
It seems
We
that-
open up. I'm sorry.
It seems that we're going to be guided by the Ontario suggestions and so on. The minimum we need to know is what they are before we can, be making comments that are meaningful. Otherwise, it will just be shut down because if Ontario says this, Ontario says that, we don't know about it. So we need to know what Ontario has in its book, basically. And this is what I was getting at earlier. We need to have the information ahead of these sessions, not at the session.
If you can come by Monday, I'll print off these copy for you. Monday, I'll print the copies for you.
Monday.
Yeah. So I'll leave it at the front desk, Access Award, and I'll set those for you. Okay. So you could come in on Monday afternoon to pick it up.
Yeah, this is the two books on pedestrian and on crossings and intersections.
Yeah, I know. Book 18 and book 15. Yeah. So I know that. Yeah, I'll print the two books out for you, and you can pick it up on Monday afternoon.
So can we just get back to staff on whether or not the 9th works? for everyone. I think I'm one of the ones that didn't respond.
I'm right, I don't know.
That means you bring the cannolis in.
Okay. So
That you treating all of us and the espresso.
okay, let's get back to him just to make sure they can schedule the meeting.
I said yes, I think, to the ninth.
Yeah.
7 to 9 or whatever.
7 to 9th, we are flexible in terms of the time. I just figure that since our committee meetings are 7 to 9, it might be work for everybody, but if we open up for different options, 5 to 6, 5 to 7, I'll let the group decide.
It's tight. I mean, if you guys want to start at 5, then I'll have to flex my hours at work.
But we're fine with 7 to 9. If one
I'm
is,
working during the day, I don't know if anybody else is, but
Okay, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it up to committee members to respond. Any other new business?
oh, that's it. Thank you.
Any other new business from anyone else? I did just two things, something well, along the lines of what Klaus was saying and getting agenda items onto the agenda. I'd like to be more part of the putting together of the agenda. Because I'm just like all of you, I pick it up and it's established before I even see it. There are times where I send things over through Marco, I'd like to see this on the agenda, but I suspect there's other things either that the committee would want to see on the agenda. I know Klaus probably has a few, maybe others do. I want to find a streamlined way because we're meeting every 2 months. And if we miss something, like I wanted something on the agenda, wasn't enough time, it's not here, it'll be in 2 months' time. And I may not have to wait, and I may have to put a special notice of motion to council and skip the entire committee because of that. So I want to figure out a way when we have issues that I think the committee should be weighing in on, how do we get it onto the committee? I'll just ask staff and what.
Yeah, I can start if you want. So through you, Mr. Chair, couple different ways. So you can do a direction at council. So notice a motion that something is being brought forward to the committee. You can reach out to our staff liaisons. The issue there is you can't direct staff unilaterally. So if it's already something they're working on, we can definitely have it brought to the committee. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if it's something that is sort of a new thing, it would be better to come from a council motion that staff would be working on a new project to bring to the committee for comment. We can also bring stuff up under new business. So today, if there's anything for new business, we can ask staff to look into it and they'll be able to let you know whether we can put it on a future agenda.
So who would be advised of that? I feel like sometimes things would get lost. Klaus has a whole bunch of things I'm sure he would want to have us discuss, and rightfully so. I'm just trying to understand the process and the tracking of it. Clearly, we're here, we're speaking, new business makes, to me, out of everything you described, the easiest way to get something on the agenda. But it may not be something that staff is working on.
Correct.
And I want to be able to close that loop to say, maybe it'll be up to me to put something at council if staff isn't and the committee really wants to discuss it. So I guess some communication to me on if things come up in new business or throughout the meeting that the committee wants to discuss, just to communicate at least through me so that at least I can say, yes, it's going to be on. No, it's not. This is the path to get it on.
Yeah. So through you, Mr. Chair, I think that's the easiest thing between whoever our coordinator is and our staff liaison. We could communicate with the chair and let them know whether that's a project staff is working on that can be on a future agenda, or if it's a project that does not currently have staff resources and would have to be brought up through council direction.
Okay, so the committee is clear. If you have any projects or anything you want the committee to discuss outside of what the staff is going to do anyway, in addition to whatever staff is going to put on the agenda, to bring it up on a new business, they'll make a record of it and then identify whether or not it's already within their planning and then have it come to the committee. If not, identify that. And if it's important, I'll put a notice of motion and try to work it a different way.
sorry, I know we don't have status. I know we're here to express our opinion. Can we send something directly to you and then you can approach? Like, would it be better that all the committee members said, we said, okay, we think this should be an agenda. I'll send it to you because you have the authority. You've been voted in. to bring the item, because I know internally, you know, it comes to us, we always say, "Hey, this is agenda, if you have anything, put it in," but because we're not. I don't know, we're more of a sounding board, the way I look at, you know, the way these committees operate, where we really don't have a direct relationship. We have with you that you could do something forward as a council. Is that my understanding? Is that? what
Well,
you're
I
saying?
think-
Is
I
that-
think if it
that we
comes-
give it to you and then you can move it
If it
forward?
comes from the committee, I think you should bring it up at the committee under new business. If that fails, like it's not part of their work plan, what we're requesting, then it would rely on someone else like myself to go through council to direct staff.
That I could be at home or Owen to be at home and we come up with an idea thinking, oh, we should talk about this at the next meeting. How do we incorporate that? You know, this meeting was coming up in a week and we said, oh, you know what, we should talk about this. You just want, you know, send this out.
Yeah, I, the best way is through, so everybody
So
hears,
here,
but if you wanna, I'm still gonna follow the same process. I'll send it to staff. They'll
Oh.
figure out whether it's part of their.
I just want to prep people.
I can't jump the gun and automatically tell them, put it on the agenda if they're not already working on a project. You know, depending on what it is, obviously they'll provide some judgment. It's not gonna take a lot of time. I'm sure they would do it anyway, but if it is something significant and they're not already doing it, then it would require council direction.
And through you, Mr. Chair, just to add to that, if the agenda has been published, it's quite rare that we'll add a brand new item because it doesn't really give staff enough time to create something. Yeah, because we have our agenda review committee where senior staff review everything. So once the agenda is published, I would say new business is the best option from there forward. Yeah,
It gets published a week before.
correct.
Yeah.
But sometimes they need more time, like I got cut off. 'Cause I wanted an item on this month's
You
agenda.
could bring it up. We could all bring it up here at this meeting.
Yeah, it goes in
It's
the
not
minutes.
just-
Yeah, I just need work from staff. I need them to generate a report for what I was looking from a resident. It was a resident, it's a community, a school, actually one of the schools that's here is looking for another crosswalk on one of the streets. And they put in a petition and I wanted to get your advice and opinion so that it could come to council to move forward.
But we can discuss it now.
Well, we need staff, I need a staff report. They
Oh,
need,
you want.
need
them
to
get-
advise on
Okay.
the counts and
Yeah, and the
whether or not
data.
it's
We can
legitimate.
give our independent opinion right now if you want. You're lucky that you have, I'm gonna say, you're a neighboring.
Yeah,
You know, my situation is different because I will work with Michael, you know, and Nancy at a municipal level, you know, between municipalities that we typically collaborate, right? So my relationship is slightly different. But I'm willing, if you're looking for an opinion tonight, what it is, got it here.
it's
You got
we-
Owen.
we've
who's
already
got
actually
A lot of construction.
already
So you got
generated
me that's-
a report. It's actually just a little bit of semantics, but it has to go through this process.
Oh, okay.
The report is actually already pretty much done. I don't know if you know the reference of it, but anyways, if I can't, and obviously I have the luxury of going to council and doing this motion and speeding up that process, if it can't wait to the December meeting. So yes, it's, if you have something, you can send it to me. I'll follow that process. And if they're already working on it, it'll end up on the agenda. Fair enough. Klaus?
Can I say some? I understood that staff had to be in favor of having something on the agenda, basically. That's how this thing was set up. But that almost excludes us from advancing topics that we believe should be on the agenda. We should be talking about these things in terms of the future of this town.
No, if they're not already working on it,
Yeah, okay,
then I can put a notice of motion to council that directs staff to work on it.
okay.
There is an avenue to take in case they're not already working on something.
Yeah, you have to put
Sorry.
that I cannot.
Sorry, if you bring up an item and we bring it up here, and let's say staff is not already working on it and it requires some significant work, I have the luxury of bringing it to council. Council decides whether they want to do it, and then it comes to this committee and staff does whatever they have to do. So there is another avenue. It doesn't stop only at this committee if they're not already working on a project and we have an idea.
Yeah. Well, I brought up as examples, I brought up two subjects. One is in yield signs. I would like to see that investigated in terms of doing away with these four-way stop signs.
Okay, let them know, so they'll write it down. They'll start a list of items that could be on future agendas.
I mean, that
This is how we do
feeds
it,
into
yeah.
the climate emergency business and so on as well, eh? That's one. The other one is the alternative transportation vehicles that we have around. What are we going to do with them, like Frank Sonic's vehicle? You have discussed this at council, I believe, or not? Well, it has certainly been talked about. And Frank Sonic wants this one vehicle to be operating in Aurora as an example, I believe. But we still have to, even excluding that, we still have a whole bunch of vehicles that are moving around town that are on sidewalks or roads, and on sidewalks, they create a problem, basically. When you have a fast moving one of these things that you stand on
Scooter or
scooters or whatever, eh? These vehicles are the future, I guess. I guess a lot of kids are into this, and even adults. And I think we should be discussing items like this in terms of how we would handle this in Aurora. You know, there are other towns who are already doing this, but we are not really.
so from a traffic safety or
Yeah, safety.
perspective, or from a
They're
a bylaw
right-of-ways.
that they're not allowed to ride on the sidewalk.
Well, it's the use of right-of-ways, like you can have these vehicles on the sidewalks, or you can have them on the road. They're the only two alternatives we have, and we have trails. And each of those right-of-ways, basically public right-of-ways, they're suitable or not suitable for these vehicles. We need to determine which ones we will allow on which right-of-ways, as an example.
I think that's already established. They can't typically, I don't think are they allowed to be on the sidewalks or on the roadway?
No. No,
They're not allowed on the sidewalks.
not allowed on the roadway either.
They're not allowed.
Yeah.
But it's not enforced. But that by the definition of the rule, there isn't a rule written for those types of vehicle movement.
But
So-
e-bikes are considered bikes.
E-bikes are
they're
considered
not on side-
bikes.
No
It's
sidewalks.
this
road.
scooters and the other modes of transportation that are electric. There isn't. And then the other issue is following the rules of the road, which goes down to the safety aspect. It's interesting. I think Klaus's point about the yield signs would be a very interesting study. And I think you could do it, and you could probably get funding to do it from because of the enviro impact. So if you look at the idling time versus the non-idling time and the environmental impact, the yield signs actually probably has some mechanism of movement. I think that would be a very interesting study.
The yield signs would merely confirm what is already going on in most cases. You know, you have a whole bunch of intersections where people don't stop, they go through. And it's illegal, yes, but it's suffered. There's nobody there to stop them. And I think it would be a good idea to capture this, to find out whether maybe a yield sign should be put there. And then we have a great improvement in terms of your climate emergency resolution. You have to make these grand resolutions, and then you don't do anything with them. Nothing meaningful anyway. You have a vehicle here and there in town that will be electric vehicle and so on. But when it comes down to changing the rules, like getting less cars on the road and all this, you're not doing it. You're not really tackling your problems.
You need to
So-
provide an alternative. That's the issue with York region. There was no investment made. There was no investment made in public transit. I hate to say it. I know I'm working on a major project and it's gonna take us 50 years to get it in there where it has to be reliable. You know, right now, it's not up here. It's not at par that the city of Toronto was. When the regions were created, they said goodbye and we were car focused for 50 years, Klaus. And it's gonna take us a while to build the light rapid transit system. It's gonna be major investments that we have to make. There is no alternative. If I could take, I lived in Toronto and I took public transit everywhere. It was when I started working that I realized I needed a car for the work that I did, right? My subdivisions were out in suburbia, right? I was in the engineering industry. I couldn't get to her by, so there are certain things, when you come up here, our transit is brutal up here. The bus services is, when you compare it to what Toronto has, we're not there yet. And that's unfortunate. And we're trying to build that. And remember, it's going to take a while for it to change. It's not going to happen overnight.
You also intensify development around public transportation
Absolutely.
corridors.
That's what,
And let's stop this nonsense of, I'm not suggesting 70 stories in Aurora, but we got to get out of this thinking of 6 stories is okay around public transportation corridors. I
like
just
the
don't see it.
investment, I agree, like the investment that the province is making around, around Aurora Grow. The expectation is that we're going to we're going to hide densities in there. The expectation is the official plan needs to highlight all these roads, Yonge Street, all the major corridors, Wellington. Be prepared. I mean, there's going to be pushback, but that's why the province is saying now, by right, everybody's going to get a fourplex. I could flip my house right now and you guys can't say boo to it. That's going to be a right. Because it's too much not in my backyard. And this is there are many reasons why we don't lack housing but we got to start somewhere and we got to throw it out there. Klaus, the only thing I'm going to say, because I know you mentioned, the yield sign and you mentioned policies, the bike. It just recently passed. So please look at my municipality. We already endorsed something my colleagues did actually put some, because it's been a major issue. We have MUPs all over the place and these things are all over. So we, again, with, bylaw compliance, you kind of have to find that happy medium as to what, because again, we don't have extensive, I'm going to say extensive system of multi-use paths. We're trying to separate our facilities on regional roads, and that'll be some of the commentary you see. I know regional roads are not included, but Vaughn's position now moving forward is that we will have separate sidewalks and cycling facilities. They will not be only in temporary or depending rural types of setting where we'll have an MUP as a temporary measure. Multi-use path, sorry, I'm speaking jargon, just yell at me. It's, we call it active transportation facilities, right? Which is comprehensive between sidewalk and cycling. And we found that where we did MUPs, people were complaining now, oh, what are cyclists doing? They thought this was a walking path or a running path. So, we're now trying to educate people. And I know Aurora is slightly different. I think you have MUPs and sidewalks. I was just looking at what you did up in St. John Side Road. And, again, it's developing that consistency throughout. Every municipality likes to tweak it, and every road was developed differently. Like we've moved away from bike lanes. Bike lanes is like nobody wants them anymore. So if there's opportunities, they will disappear. I think
That's
in
too
getting,
bad. I'm totally in favor of bike lanes, especially at Wellington Yonge. Oh my goodness, that intersection is awful.
you're not going to get bike lanes. Unfortunately, yeah, we struggle. You're trying to think more, again, why do you make your road? And then unfortunately, I think the community as this is developed, when you talk to residents, everybody wants it in Boulevard, because at the end of the day, whether you're right or wrong, if you get hit by a car, you lose. And that's the issue with people still texting while they're driving. That's the real issue. People are still talking on their phones, and stuff.
Right,
So-
but I remember seeing kids riding their bikes along Wellington to go to Wellington Public School, and they were crossing Yonge on their bicycles. That's scary.
Yeah, there should have been a different, I don't like what they did there at the intersection. You know, there's different line paintings that you could have done. But again, the problem with these old historical areas, you don't really have the space and you kind of have to blend in. Like if you look at, you know, what at where we have cycling facilities inside, we have different kind of walking areas as they cross. At the intersection, I'm not sure. We don't have full control. That's York Region, right? The intersection of Wellington and Yonge. Yeah, okay. So then good luck. So they typically won't put anything for cycling there because they're gonna say there's no cycling facility, right? Official cycling facility. So you,
No, I was just gonna go back to Klaus's. So he has 2 items. So if we can get them in the minutes, at least then we can see if we can carry them forward into a greater discussion next time.
Anyone else, new business?
so I'm just gonna add one. I know I spoke about it, but we are pursuing and I've asked the town of Aurora to participate. We are pursuing Metrolinx in for crossings over the Barrie Go line. We have 4 crossings proposed. And Vaughan, might as well know that's where I work. There are 4 crossings that we're proposing, so I've asked the town of Aurora to join us with those discussions and hopefully we can get couple of them here in Aurora. Look for funding because I know they're gonna say, you know, so we're gonna try to squeeze them to pay for half of it. You know, or
We brought that up. Last well, actually Klaus brought it up because you brought up the pedestrian crossing at Shepherd's Bush to get through there to make sure that there's a pedestrian crossing.
That's only one of them.
I know you mentioned multiple, but that is, so there's, are you talking pedestrian crossing or road crossing?
pedestrian crossing.
Pedestrian crossings.
Off
Okay,
trail-
just making
let's
sure.
call it trail crossing.
Yeah,
That's what we're
okay.
pursuing. That's
Just making sure.
officially
A lot cheaper. That's what just making.
Right, so there's 2 options to the crossing. So we've asked Metrons to define what are the requirements to go over because right now, because they're electrifying the system, there are certain things that you have to do in
Mhm.
distances. And this is the issue that I have some of
Mm,
these
distance.
crossings that I see, the higher you go, it's like, okay, do you make it like this or do you do the zigzag to get it down to cross? And the other option, sorry, was what's the requirement to go under?
They don't like.
Right? They don't like under, but you know, it is an option. It is very costly, of course. It's cheaper to go above, but we are asking.
Klaus, you identified 4 areas for crossings? Was it 7 or
How many-
4? Remember your, the
How many,
crossings.
pedestrian crossing, I think it was seven.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not necessarily road crossings. The problem
crossings.
is-
Trail crossings.
Trail crossings. Are they
Okay.
trail
Trail.
crossings? Trail crossing.
Yeah, trail, 2 of them are road crossings, I think, the way I remember it. But anyway, there's altogether 7 crossings for pedestrians, and I think they must be off-road. They're off-road crossings, yeah. So the,
Overhead electric.
Are we looking at any of them from a town perspective? Any of those crossings?
They will be with you as part of the active transportation master plan.
Okay. So we can discuss this when it comes
Yeah, we could discuss. at
On the 9th.
information section. Yeah,
on the 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah, confirm the
Last-
locations because
last time we discussed that, we insisted that the crossings remain in the Trails Master Plan or the Active Transportation Master Plan. And I wonder how that went. Like this was going to happen over the summer. We were going to make it clear to Metrolinx that we were not taking them out. We were going to let them go. Let them know.
So will we see those kind of maps on the 9th in terms of where the locations of those off-road crossings are?
Yep, they will be included in the map, in the draft map that we're going to discuss. They will be included in the map.
Yeah, and you have told Metrolinx? Has anything gone forward to Metrolinx to let them know?
Yeah, so we already forwarded the draft network map to Metrolinx back in August. Haven't heard anything yet. We follow up a couple times, but we still haven't heard anything yet. But they are aware of what we're proposing. So again, staff will continue to follow up with Metrolinx, but they already have the draft plan with them. They have it with them. Yeah.
And just to be clear, I worked with Klaus a few years ago on all of those crossings, and I put a motion forward to at least put them in our town budgets. Unfortunately, it didn't pass council. But I'm happy to see they're still in the draft master plan. We can discuss it on the 9th, and see how on a go forward basis, whether it's Metrolinx or how the funding model ends up happening and which are the priorities, and if some have to be dropped off for others, we can have that discussion. So the 9th, you need to be there here, the 9th of October of November.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to only add when it comes to funding, I don't know, so I'm going to ask you, Michael, again, I haven't looked at your DC study. I know that's my Bible for money. So I'm hoping that you've included these crossings in there, because typically these are growth related things that you would be funded for. So that's the place where you'd be putting it in. So if it hasn't been put in there, then we're already around, then we're going to have to kind of look at these 7 and say, okay, which one is more important? Because I don't know whether you can get all 7, which one you kind of have to look, what are the key ones that we really need?
So I'm not directly involved with this DC study, so I can find out for you.
Yeah, can you do that and say, have we identified these crossing? Are we collecting for them?
Are they eligible in the new DC regime?
Oh, yes, don't get me going. I'm losing my mind. It's too many.
Anyways, that's for another.
That's
day.
another discussion, but I'm going to let you know that that's how we're funding it. Okay, so that is included in our DC study for these crossings. So,
Any other new business?
oh, that's a good news business.
Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn, please? I see Klaus's hand go up. Gino. All those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Thank you online,
Thank you.
Lil,
Thank you.
Johnny.